be looked at.
Council would have the option of asking the Budget Commission reducing the levies each year. If Amelia continues to grow, and personally I think there's a lot of potential for Amelia for growth, both residential and commercial and light industrial. I don't see any reason why that couldn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm just looking at, I would like to see not just the folks who own their homes and have real estate tax, have everything go up on their end. I would like to see it go across the board a little bit smoother.
And that's one reason why I'm personally a little more in favor of the earnings tax and the property tax. Because as I said, council could decide, let's split the earnings tax. Once it hits the general fund, we're going to throw 25% to the police department, 10% to the fire levy, or whatever, depending on what the collection is.
Here's my problem with that earnings tax is fair across the board. You've said it yourself. You live in Loveland, you pay 1% earnings tax. You're either going to pay it here or you're going to pay it in Loveland. You're not going to pay it in both places. So no, not everyone's going to see a tax increase.
If there's a reciprocity agreement.
So we're not going to make reciprocity agreements?
There have been several cities in the area have repealed them already.
But then we're making everybody who lives here pay more than anybody that works here. Still, because then they're paying at work and here. I mean, there's no fair way of doing it. So to say that the earnings tax is any more fair than anything else, nothing's fair. All it does is generate more money. And, it's not a voted on, and we all know that you put a tax levy on the ballot, it's not going to pass. I mean, that's why we're sitting here even thinking about that. I mean, I don't even see the point. That's the biggest reason why I'm going, why are we even looking at doing a police levy? Because I don't see how, given the economic time, I don't think the people have more money to give. And I think if they had more money to give, they would love to give it to the police. But I think a lot of people are tapped out. And I'm so opposed to, that's the biggest reason I'm so opposed to raising their taxes. I mean, who has more money? I mean, people are already making the choices between cable and, having to get rid of the stuff they're used to having. But that's just my 2 cents on it. I don't need to derail us anymore.
But I do believe if we would have been able to adopt the earnings tax 3 years ago, we wouldn't be having this discussion today.
Yeah.
I guess I got one question to fire at the chief. We're talking about the monies the police department brings in. Other than the levy monies, the revenue that we generate from, quote, things we don't want to talk about, but I know those are way off right now. Are we just overcalled to have our police officers doing other things other than bringing in revenue? Or
no.
I mean, we need revenue.
Much, yeah.
We need money for.
When you're out doing reports, follow-ups and things like that, you're not out there in traffic enforcement. On the little police report there, I'm trying to change from what you guys were getting in the past. Actually, show you how many reports, how many calls for service, how many miles driven, how many tickets, warnings, misdemeanor cites, and all that. Next time, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more robust. We have a comparison to year before, so you can see this year to last year. So you can kind of see trends. If I would have had more time today and been spending in the courthouse myself all the time, I was going to try to do by hours. How many hours of police time were put into that month that I was describing, so we could actually get a picture as it moves down the road to kind of show you where we're going. But in response to that, certainly we lost 3 folks last year, or this year from last year. That was 3 less folks out there doing different things. And now there's 3 less picking up a higher volume of calls. I've been working shifts myself on occasion, and I had nobody to fill them in, and didn't want to let the village bear. Got a few cases on the desk that they're doing some work on simply because they're more intricate, and I didn't want to tie a police officer up on a embezzlement case that I'm still waiting on stuff from the Attorney General.
Okay.
Yeah, I need a body.
Well, one other thing, speaking of Chief saying he needs a body, since January, Mr. Braden's been overseas. So he was a part-timer, correct?
And he's part-time.
So there's one part-timer he hasn't had. I had heard that he was supposed to be back sometime this summer, but who knows?
No, actually, when we went down to the commissioners meeting that night, it's going to be about March or April of next year when he'll come back from Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll look at, the possibility of that, because I know, not only, there's a lot of things in the village, that concern people, but I know there's a lot of people now that seem to think that, they can pretty much just buzz right through town as fast as they want and not worry about a police officer. And I'm getting that from a lot of people, and especially back in Quail Creek and Sedona Ridge, so maybe we can, if we get somebody loose, at least have them slow them down a little bit.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think that might be where Cody's got his PMR mounted during his first official deal. It's either down in that subdivision or another one that's got the little magic box on it. We'll have a speed report on that as soon as he gets it downloaded.
All right, great. That'll actually tell you how many people and what speed
How
they
many
went.
people, how fast they were going, and depending on which spreadsheet, the times where all these cars go through. So it can actually help us because we'll know these are the high times of issues by another time when their compliance is the rule.
Right.
So instead of sitting there when their time is compliant, we can have a guy try to hit that area when the high volume of offenses are going. Just trying to make a little smarter patrol. Haven't figured out how to do the electronic pin map yet. We'll work on
All right. Thanks, Chief.
it. Yes, sir.
But if you add an officer, you end up falling short next year, correct?
A full-timer.
Without a levy.
At the end of 2012.
True. Well, beginning of
Going
2000.
into next year.
Well,
What, 4 months did that take?
and 4 months was taken into consideration.
Was in here the figure?
Yeah. I believe
He
so.
does
I can't
have-
remember for certain. And he would, 4 months,
I mean, if you compare it to years past, I mean, last year we carried over 50,000. We're still 30,000 above that. I think it would make it much more tighter if we had another officer there. So maybe, but it's not like we're going to move on that tonight without having those numbers in front of us.
Well, one thing, basically what it comes down to, what we started the discussion was whether or not to send this off. And I think we should go ahead and send it off for the information, whether we act on it or not.
exactly. It's not a decisive move. It's just saying we want to know what the numbers are.
Yeah.
How much does it cost us to get the numbers?
Zip,
Zero?
statutory duty, the county auditor.
That's what's right.
We can afford it.
It's in our budget.
We can buy 10 of those.
I'm
I
still
know it's not
torn.
get carried away.
I mean, I'm torn because, information is power, but I mean, I have zero desire. I don't care what the numbers come back. I have zero desire to put any tax levy on the ballot. So, I mean, that's kind of where I am with it.
I think it's a good idea, at least.
Yeah.
The residents know, what the.
The information is power, but
Yeah.
like I said, I have zero desire to put it on, so I don't know if I even want to know.
Is that a motion?
There's an ordinance.
Well, we got ordinances for it, so.
Yeah, okay.
It's just a matter of deciding what type of, if you got a couple of levels of millage that you're curious to hear about.
What do we had a renewal of the 7
Yeah, I just randomly generated a replacement for the 7 and a 3.
replacement.
I figured that way you could do both.
Well, yeah,
and
you
we
can
change
determine
them.
off of those numbers, and then we can change it if.
Well,
we did
no,
act.
whatever you run, you have to have asked for.
Do you?
So if you, but I just threw a 3 out there because, we can write in a different number tonight. You have the ordinance in the form you need, so. Or we could do a duplicate of that with a different number. I mean, you can do as many requests as you want.
Right.
All the millages you can possibly think of, just you have to have an ordinance for each one. So
You just have to have it by Board of Elections by 4:30 on August 10th.
Well, technically, we have to have this now.
Yeah, for this,
The final,
Yeah.
for this, you have to have it now.
Yeah, running a levy is a two-stage process. You got to do the ordinance requesting the certification of the amounts that will be generated, which is what we have in front of us tonight. And then the second one is the resolution to actually, ordinance to actually put the levy on the ballot. So this is the first that just gets the information. You cannot, it has to be done in those two steps. You can't skip the first step. So that's why, realizing the deadline was coming up, I just generated two of the potential
So
possibilities.
tonight, we could generate a 1, a 2, and then use your.
However
3.
you want, yeah, and we could just change it. We could just amend it from what I wrote. Yeah, I just selected the 3 as a round number because we had talked about a 3 being necessary and the replacement of the 7.
Now, after August, can we, when's the next time we can do this again? I mean, this has to be done, and then if we're going to do the levy has to be put on by August 10th in order to get on the ballot, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
So we basically get the numbers back by next council meeting and have to act upon them at next council meeting.
Yes.
Right. I kind of take Chuck on that right now. You know, the numbers that we've had has been kicking around and going back and forth, and everything we're doing right now. I'll bring up the first of the year.
I think I'd be a lot
And
more
what if we
comfortable
did-
looking at it again then.
The 10 to replace the 7 and 3.
We can do that.
Because that'll still generate, because the 1 is so old. Would
But
that
you got
not
to think
gen-
about the people you're going to put a 10 levy out there. How
Yeah,
much
but if
more?
it's replacing the 7 and the 3.
Still going to be at a different rate.
You can't replace the 7 and 3 with the 10. We have to introduce a new levy. So on the ballot, let's say a new tax levy. And then we have to have an ordinance that say we're going to
I'm
repeal
aware of
it.
that.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. That's what I'm saying.
If I remember the 7 replacement generated for 100,000 when it like $65 a year for a $100,000 home. Which
That's pretty close to it, yeah.
It was set to generate somewhere around the $130,000 for the 7 last time.
The way I see it, you know, it doesn't hurt to ask on that.
But if we're not pushing for the deadline of August 10th to actually put on a tax, we could do this after August and do another one to find out the millage, right?
You would, yeah. You wouldn't do it now.
So-
You're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's kind of not a, unless we plan on really putting that tax on.
You have to recall, it'd take a full year for any of that revenue to be realized by the village, because taxes are paid the year arrears.
So it'd be an addition.
But last time I feel like when we did this,
We turn around
has it been
in September for the next.
a year ago, I feel like we rushed into it and we made some mistakes and we should have done it differently. And I feel like, here we are again, I think we're kind of rushing it.
Well, I don't know how we could say we're rushing in it if we ran it last year and here we are talking about it again. And council's had a whole year
To
to
think
talk
about it, and like I said, my mind's changed.
And
on
we're
it.
rushing again?
I think right
That's a
now,
1 year rush. I never heard anybody rush in a year.
well, here we are, what, a week, 2 weeks from before the deadline, we were going to have to do both of them as an emergencies, boom, boom, boom.
Well, that's because council hasn't taken any action.
Yeah,
Or even
well.
taken any discussion. So the point is, the information is before you. It's what you decide to do with it.
Yeah, I guess I
Okay?
made my
The
decision.
information has been out there since the last 2 levy discussions. So this is not brand new. So if council doesn't want to act, the information is there, that's fine. Just give me the directive.
Okay. Well, I'll make the motion that we don't act. But that let me rephrase that. I'll make the motion that we're not interested in passing a tax levy. However I've got to word that, I'm not interested in passing a tax levy. This year.
Better language would be placing a levy on the ballot.
I'm not interested in placing any levies on the ballot this year. We got it.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Gerber,
No.
Mr. Campbell,
No.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Nay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
The vote is 3 to 2 nays. I believe that makes it fail.
Just don't think you can handcuff yourself like that.
I don't think it, although I'm not wanting to raise taxes, but I think we should look at the numbers.
Any further direction from the council? Any other discussion?
Yeah, other than we look at the numbers, we've looked at the numbers, and we know what the people will say about the numbers. And
But we're still not there.
they still don't want it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it also bears in mind that this can determine whether or not they want to keep their police department.
Yeah. Or what level of police.
Yeah. This helps get the information from them. Do you want your current police department or at a better level? Or is it time to start looking elsewhere?
well, I think they told us last time.
You do
Possibly.
You
But
run
they
down-
also didn't, we didn't put, we're still working on the sheriff
Right, that's been a whole
contract.
That's
So
been a
that's a
whole
new
new-
wrinkle that they
right.
didn't, have any information on.
Right.
Now they do, so.
I mean, I really didn't see them show up in force, but
That's true too.
What if we don't? What's the answer?
we're gonna keep trucking like we have been going. And when he gets the new numbers, then we'll have to sit down then and figure it out then.
So what you do?
But I mean, we're no better off. We're no worse last year than we are this year.
And I agree.
Or the year before.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The only thing is, we go, right now, anything, decision we make, it's gonna take another year to get
I
that funded.
understand that. Yep.
And the thing is, if we keep on putting it off year after year after year, we come to a point where we don't have a police department. We're not gonna go forward a police department.
Well, everyone forgets we got a police levy last year.
I know.
We did. I mean,
We did.
that's the first order you're going to have to overcome. I mean, I think they've made it clear if they've got more money to give, they're going to give it to the cops. They chose the 3 mil levy over the 7 because, and I think that boils down to not because they don't like the cops. It boils down to the fact that they don't have money to give. I mean, I really honestly, charity giving, everything's down. It's not because people are any meaner. It's times are leaner. And I mean, we keep talking about how the patrols are down, but what was our cop number back in 2000? I mean, that's when our census number's from. How many officers did we have back then? Were we still using auxiliaries? I mean, we're currently not using auxiliaries. To me, we're still not tapping all the manpower we have available to us. I mean, yeah, auxiliaries aren't great, but when times are tough, then you got to look other places. I mean, there's still solutions out there without them coming back to money. But like I said, I'm done because there's really no point in talking about this ad nauseum.
Any more direction from the council? We shall move to the next item on the agenda. Understand that from my viewpoint, it's just my job to give you the information. Okay? So it's what you decide to do with it. Next item on the agenda is the police chief's report. Chief Wallace, you can address council.
Thanks, Bill. Everyone should have got a copy of the semi-revised police report. It's just a little hodgepodge of things that's been going on for the last month and a half with me. Obviously, I've been busy trying to reconfigure some things with the police department scheduling and looking for stuff that I can, barter away, sell, improve upon, and such things like that. Getting close on a couple things like selling excess materials, selling cars, just schedule change, we're getting into that, which should result in some overtime savings. Last council meeting, you guys passed a lot of police-related ordinances. Well, now I have all that uniform money back into my control instead of just paying it out automatically each year. So now, before money's spent on uniform, I actually get to have the torn shirt in my halls before I order a new one. So I may get beat up pretty harsh if it's a bad year on uniforms, or make out like a bandit if everybody's got good stuff. So I'm excited about that. Talked a little bit briefly before about the PMR and full mounted radar. Next council meeting, we should have a couple of little handouts for that to show what it is. And we hope to eventually get it onto the village website so if someone actually says, hey, there's speeding on a certain road, they can actually just double click. There's a list of speeds and times and all that. So that'll help maybe show people that, yes, there is a problem, or no, there really is no problem. Save us a lot of aggravation and such from there. I had a couple of chiefs meetings. They were most informative. State of Ohio is governor signed a whole lot of legislation. While it doesn't affect or direct us directly, it affects us indirectly by the state trying to lighten its budget load by increasing the amount of money that from a misdemeanor felony in so that they all get pushed back to the local jail or community control instead of state prison. So I guess that's one way to take care of all that. And then down towards the bottom, kind of alluded to this one here before, number of calls for service, reports we've initiated, arrests we've made, tickets issued, warnings, and things like that, and mileage. We're going to kind of start fleshing that out a little bit into next month's what we're starting to do, a month-by-month comparison, kind of give you a watermark, so to speak, of which way this bad boy is going. My computer skills are kind of weak on that end, so before we start doing bar graphs and charts and lines and all that, Linda's pretty damn good, so we'll have her kind of take the information I give her, put it into a format that's pretty easy. I mentioned to the mayor before today, I was going to tell you guys, I really do need that guy just to make this thing work. We're kind of on a roll. No matter what we may say today, none of us know what the devil's going to go on in 2012, 2013, 2014. We might turn into boom times, or we might go into the biggest depression since 1920s. We don't know. What I do know is that I need a body now. If I'm going to go down the ship, please let me take at least the full crew down with me. That way we can all sink and swim together. If down the road things tighten up and get really bad, we'll deal with it. So I was going to say I'll deal with it then, but it must probably be my successor. We'll deal with it. And from what I've heard about him, I have full faith and confidence that he's going to do some great things. Like I said, I really need this guy to throw into the mix and get back to some good positive business. So, well, if there's any questions y'all have, I'm always available by phone at home or here or anything like that.
Chief, I really like this last line item in your report, the public safety thing, where it talks about all the calls for service, citations, and road miles, et cetera.
Yeah, I was debating some of the types, and some things are of a sensitive nature. Mm-hmm. It's like this case I'm working on. I can tell you it's an embezzlement. It is a shocker to everybody, but I don't want to let the cat out the bag yet until I have my little paws on the embezzler, if you know what I mean. So,
I just like, in general, it gives you an idea of kind of what the workload is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen
I like that.
numbers like these.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll say my goal is to kind of start balancing between last year, this year, and ours. And I need that extra guy.
Yeah, we really, I would second that. I really like your report. I think you've done a great job in your time here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chief, I have one question. You keep mentioning a couple of cars that you want to get rid of. Is would that still leave us with, what, 4?
Yeah, that would leave us with 4 good, solid marked cars. The ones I'm talking about is the old Chief's car, the old
Okay.
car.
Yeah.
It's the one that's got to put it in gear, and you got to wiggle the shifter to make sure it gets in gear. And then the other one sitting out back, still marked out, but it's stripped out, has a leaking transmission. It's still valuable on the internet market.
Yeah, I was surprised when auctioned off the other ones that they had, what they brought. So
Yep.
I was really surprised with that.
And then God knows what I'll find upstairs. When we clean out that way.
So if we
It's
do,
not going to make a glitch, but we're going to have,
Right.
and space, just having space is valuable in and of itself.
so that would leave us 4 vehicles.
Yes, sir. And that's all we're using now. I drive that old plane car every other week when I sneak home for dinner before I come back to camp, just to have it run on and keep the battery up.
Okay.
Nobody drives it. It sits there, rusts. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
For the record, the former chief was keeping that cruiser that has a leaking transmission as a parts vehicle. And if it's outlived its usefulness and the chief is inclined for it to be considered surplus, I'm just explaining that's why it's, that's what.
As a side note to that, I did speak to Brian about that.
Yeah.
Even though it's still a Ford-pound Vic,
Yeah.
they've made so many changes on the Ford-pound Vic over the years that
Not
things
that
are
much
not going to
change.
change anymore like they used to be.
Have we gotten a cage and everything out of it, that, anything like that can be
Yeah.
used?
Yeah, everything out is out of it, except now the cages are going to be pretty useless when
Yeah.
you start downsizing.
New model
the
years,
cars.
yeah.
So, you kind of hose them in which way you
And it makes perfect sense to declare that surplus.
I got
Thank you.
one.
Go ahead.
Chief, I had sent the mayor a,
Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
I have that.
Never
I
mind.
have that. You and I
All right.
talked about that.
all right, never mind. Never mind.
Got it sitting on my desk. I meant to.
That's okay. I checked today before I came too.
All right. You and I will talk about that.
All righty.
Next item on the agenda. Fire Department report from Chief Jackson.
Good evening. Good evening.
Chief,
Hey, how are you? Did you ever get a copy of our monthly report? Nothing new there, nothing new to add. Biggest thing probably we've been involved in here in the last month and a half is all festivals. We do public education at all the festivals. St. Thomas More, St. Veronica, and right on through, as well as some of the 4th of July parades and so forth. So, everything else pretty status quo at this point. Damn busy. With the rain, the floods, and the streets falling apart. You have any questions for me?
Mayor, did you ask him anything about the police night out?
Oh, we haven't gotten around to it, but I'll make a call to Chief Donnelly on that.
That's good. Thanks.
We are going to be doing our national night out again, and on August the 2nd. And I know that Union Township has participated with us in the past by bringing the smokehouse, but I know that now that Union Township's doing one, that may not be available. But you guys have always been really good in the past about participating in whatever way you can.
Good as well.
Once we have our I's dotted and T's crossed, I'll shoot over a message to you guys. Thanks.
there's always that.
You remember when they used to do, when I was a kid, they had a thing where Sparky the fire dog would come out?
I remember it.
Remember that? I wonder what happened to Sparky.
Old Sparky checked out somehow.
Great fire
Poor old Sparky.
May you rest in peace.
All right, next item on the agenda is a Public Works report from Supervisor Rick Bowman.
Good evening. In addition to the routine maintenance, the Public Works Department was involved in the following. With a full-time employee position on the field, the maintenance department has not been able to begin any new projects other than mowing and performing routine tasks. Our department has consisted of only 2 seasonal part-time workers and myself for the last month, while hiring process is taking its course. However, with the hiring of a new full-time employee, we will be able to get back on track with projects planned for the summer. We have in no means fallen behind, but are not able to move forward on pending projects. Once again, I need to address this problem on Sperling, the drainage problem. In February, I addressed council about the drainage problem caused by blockage of several driveway tiles. During the past months, heavy rains have backed up in residents' yards, upflow from the mentioned drives. It was determined that the maintenance of these driveway tiles were the responsibility of the resident. However, the situation will not be remedied unless the village has an enforceable policy in place addressing the care and replacement of damaged tiles. I have asked Mr. Rex Parsons for a copy of the Batavia Township's policy that addresses these same problems. I have right here photographs. Okay, the explanation addressed the issues in your package. With direction from Council, the Public Works Department can and will begin planning corrections to this issue, although I would suggest that a policy be developed to and enacted before the work is scheduled. The line painting on Jenny Lynn and Oak Street was completed by A&A Safety on June 30th, 2011. And on a final note, we have performed minor repairs to both the Chevy and the X-Mark motors. And that's the conclusion of my report.
Good.
Any questions?
When you get that from Rex Parsons there, can you forward that out to council?
Yeah, I covered it in that letter I sent with your packet. That is basic policy, but I don't have the complete policy.
Okay.
But yeah, we can forward it to the policy. But the overview of the policy is in that photograph.
I think we definitely need to consider that. We need to get our sidewalk policy and this policy ironed out.
I agree. I thought I can remember back when they built Sedona Ridge, we had an issue with drainage back then. I thought we had a policy back then, but I mean, that's been many years ago, so. Because we had a lot of issues. When they put it in, they funneled the water down, they shot it across the street, and it was a mess over there for a while until they figured out what to do with the water, and of course, nobody wants to take responsibility for the water. They all say it's the homeowners. So that's pretty much what it all came down to.
With these tiles, if we would go on our own and start fooling with those tiles, they cause additional damage and we'd be liable. I don't think we want to take on the else.
I know that the townships and the county don't go onto the private property. They all have policies, and pretty much the homeowner's responsible for it.
The problem we need is a policy, because if the homeowner neglects that, we're still going to have the same problem. So we need some type of enforcement saying we must take care of these problems, or the village will entertain that, and whatever policy you guys can come up with.
I think the state's the same way. I think the state's the same way. So, no,
Is there any directive from council on, for the solicitor on the?
I'll make a motion that we look at putting in a policy for the drainage on our private property, and also on the sidewalk issue, but I think we brought that up before. I guess, Laura, if you can see what Batavia Township has. I think they all have pretty much the same policy.
Well, I mean, you can't, as a matter of just general municipal law, you can't repair it on private property unless it's absolutely necessary for the public good, because you can't expend municipal funds for private benefit. So,
I'll make a motion, you draw one up for us. Second.
Third. Discussion or questions? Roll call. Sir,
Am I finished? I'm sorry.
you're finished. Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber,
Yeah.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yeah.
Passes.
Thank you.
Ricky, I did have a question.
Yeah.
I know a while back you were talking about getting a monument for the veterans or Did anything ever come of that? Or
We've
where
never
was-
brought it before council. We do have a report, a pretty comprehensive report, and even cost estimates for that time to be placed. We're one of the few villages that really don't have an official memorial for any veterans, and I've worked pretty extensively on that report. It's been prepared. It's just waiting to entertain to council, see if they'd like to review that.
Do we know when we're going to be entertained by that?
Whenever you like. I have it in my office on the shelf,
Okay.
and it's
It's really at council's discretion. I had mentioned to Rick that, just honestly, we had so much pressing business
Right.
so much more pressing business that it might have a better opportunity of coming to realization when there's not so much other.
Right. And why I ask is because I've been asked to do the Veterans Day thing. And I didn't know if maybe, Todd and I had talked a little bit about possibly could we put it in the cemetery?
Yes, that's where I have placed it in the report.
Okay.
If there's room, I have already designated areas that I could propose to have it placed into. Currently, we have also going on the Cincinnati Roundtable and the Civil War Camp. Lytle is doing an extensive report on the Civil War veterans out there. I gave them my information because I had researched all veterans, and they're going to prepare a report and give me information on all those soldiers and their service records. Will be coming in the future, which will enhance that report even more further.
The report is comprehensive and prepared. If council wishes to see it, Rick can make the presentation at the next meeting.
Yeah,
I think that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
have
I'd like,
already.
I don't know how long it would take that monument to be made, but
If we had personnel in place, most of the work was going to be able to do public works, although we would have to order bronze plaques. As you'll see, there's several plaques to designate not on every war. We have soldiers from the Revolutionary War all the way up into World War II in Korea in those cemeteries. I'm not aware of any others beyond Vietnam-wise or anything else. Although if we begin new barrels, we may have more. And also, identifiably, we've done 140 veterans in our two cemeteries, and there's probably more. I would like to, if we get into that, to place an article on the paper to the residents that they have a relative that served that is not marked on any stones that I can find, and they served. We can also give them recognition. We have all the flag holders for every veteran. Took care of that last year, and we keep those up. If they're damaged, they get replaced. So everyone has a flag, and I keep those flags in place from Memorial Day until Veterans Day, and then we remove those. So we try to keep our veterans in the foremost view of the public so that they're aware of the service they do.
okay.
Sounds like you've done a good job.
Yes, very thorough.
I've
Great.
seen part of the report.
It's a pretty thick report.
It was interesting. Rick, I have one question. We had a gentleman here before we started who had some concerns about the cemetery. Did you pick up on any of that?
Yeah, I
or-
did, and I don't understand what he was talking about. We move the cemeteries completely once a week and weed them, although it's once a week, and I can't imagine trying to mow them more than once a week. We have one personnel that is assigned just to cemeteries because it takes 3 days to do those cemeteries thoroughly. So I don't understand what he's talking about tall grass or anything, because has not been an issue for the last 2
Could
years.
he, I was going to say, could he be, do we also take care of the one by the school?
Yes, we do. And that one's all completely mowed. And
Okay.
we, as of standing up broken monuments, that's in my plans, but we just do not have the time or the personnel to do it. I have ideas and ways to repair those broken monuments that would make it look nice, whether it be upright or placed onto the ground into a form. But we just don't have the time or personnel to do that right at this point. It's been a concern of mine for years. I've talked to the mayor about it many times. But when we do get that time, we will start addressing those things. But we just don't have the personnel at this point. But and that is a concern, that there are some older stones down. And once we get, like I say, get the time we can fix those, some of them will need heavier equipment, lift them up a little bit more, we're going to pick up what we have.
Are there any places can outsource that to that specialize in that?
Yes, there are. I think they're pretty expensive, but we can look into the cost of that, because we're talking probably in the two cemeteries upwards to 100 stones. But some of them are small that we can take care of. The bigger ones, maybe 15, 20 that we could not pick up and put back in place. Those we could outsource. For safety reasons alone, the weight of those large monuments is just dangerous to handle. But the small ones...
And damaging them, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to damage one of those large granite.
And if they're familiar with handling them, then
right.
Might be a better choice. So,
but some of our stones are 140, 150, 60 years old.
Yeah.
That we can do an adequate job, a nice job of piecing them back together. They've been broke for years, but the parts are still there. So we can piece them back together and set them into a form that will hold them in place and make them look nice again.
I think if you get a chance to contact one of the companies that specialize in, and have them look at some of the older, larger ones, and just give us a quote just to kind of see.
I'll be fine. Yeah, that's been a concern of mine, like I say, ever since I began working here. We took over the cemeteries. I think in the past, before the village took over cemeteries, it was just maintaining the mowing and not maintaining anything else other than the mowing. And we'll want to further that and make it a nice cemetery. And they are nice now, but we could do a lot more to it.
Okay. If I may ask, since it occurred before my tenure here, was the donation to the village for the cemetery fund restricted to just one cemetery, or could it be used for any of them? Does anyone know or remember?
All I remember is it was a cemetery association. I think we got both cemeteries at the same time.
I think we did too.
Yeah, because they were responsible for both.
Yeah.
I just mentioned that if the council decides to go ahead, there is that grant or whatever you want to call it, donation sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
Rick's currently just using for mowing.
Yeah, there's money in the cemetery fund.
But
That's
you
one of
gotta
the-
keep in mind, the cemetery fund, that has to last forever. Because there's no money going into that fund, except occasionally
Interest.
all you got is interest going into that fund.
occasionally sell a plot. We do have
Yeah,
some
it's
plots.
like
but
$60.
It's not like people
Yeah.
down the
I mean,
door to get in there. Yeah, I was going to say that, but you
People aren't dying to get in.
well, you got two that are. They're working.
A couple of them. But, I mean, that is
So
true,
why
that
would Pensa
doesn't,
That they're guy did.
we're one of the few lucky villages that got cemeteries with funds. Most municipalities don't have any funds accompanying their cemeteries, and they have to pay to maintain them out of their general fund, so don't lightly spend that money, because we will all be long gone, and that will still have to support those two cemeteries.
Next item on the agenda is the Recreation Commission report. Gary Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned earlier, Todd kind of mentioned the National Night Out. We are going to hold an event this year. It was kind of up in the air whether or not we were going to. The Recreation Commission is going to work with the police department in order to put on the event this year. Recreation Commission voted to hire entertainment for the event, and we were going to forego our concert in the park and just have the concert for National Night Out. Hire one band to perform. We approved up to $700 for the band and entertainment, knowing that we had a potential sponsor in our back pocket that was willing to participate in the concert, but we had to check to make sure that they wanted to participate in the National Night Out, and they did agree to do so, and they're going to be donating $1,000 towards the event. Our sponsor is the Union Institute and University, and we'd like to thank them for their support, and I believe we'll also have some leftover monies for the chief to probably do some drinks or hot dogs or something, I think, is kind of the plan. So we'll touch base. I know Mayor had kind of touched base with you on that as well. So, and that'll be our National Night Out, which is August 2nd, correct?
Correct.
And that would be 7 to 9:30. We also had a request from the Amelia Elementary PTA, since the school will not let them hold a function after school hours. They would like to use Spencer St. Park in order to put on their annual fall festival. And the commission approved this pending a legal review. Just I know they would like certain things that we have to see if it would create a problem or not. So. We also have a skate fest planned for September 24th from 1 to 3 p.m. We'll be working on donations for the event in order to have food and prizes. The mayor has volunteered to be our DJ for the day. So as we get more details, we'll release those as well. And that's all I have.
Lever.
Okay. I'm going to ask council to adjourn quickly for just a couple minutes while the videographer changes the tape. So we can just take a temporary adjournment here for about 2 or 3 minutes.
I have one of these tags, and this aids on all the inventory, and then as we start proceeding to replace those, it's dated and we know when that was put into service. And you can do a test after 10 years to check that reflectivity, and then we'll start doing that at that time. Work began on replacement of the sidewalk in front of 2 Creek View on April 4, 2011. The old walkway was removed, the new base material was added, and new walkways were poured. We found that by removing the sidewalk, there was no base material under there other than sand, and the sand had washed away. And I prepared a large report with photographs and everything, and there was no areas, 2 to 3 inches, no support under it whatsoever, so when it cracked, it was caved in. That's in a large report that I gave to the mayor. And then the second stage, consisting of the portion of walkway that runs through the driveway of 2 Creek View, and a large section on Glenn's side, was started on April 12th and was finished on the 14th. The old walkway was removed, new base material added, and walkway poured. The report, like I say, is to the mayor. Since we did that today, we finished putting the new topsoil, leveling out that, and sowing grass. So that's both those areas that we discussed last meeting have been completed. The cost was pretty expensive because base material. We added 3 inches of gravel, then compacted it, then poured on top of that, so they should not move at all. Because once we compacted that material, it was almost as hard as concrete itself that we poured on it. So we have 5 inches of concrete and 3 inches of base. So they should work well into the future. And that concludes my report. If there's any questions.
1 second before we have any questions. The video needs to change tapes there. It needs out of tape.
Oh,